The FIA's handling of the Belgian Grand Prix has come under intense fire, both from fans and drivers alike. Max Verstappen himself was visibly frustrated with the way the race director decided to start Sunday's event. Rain was expected, and most of the drivers had prepared their setups accordingly, but the FIA's overly cautious approach left teams regretting their strategic decisions. Has the FIA gone too far with its safety-first measures? And if so, what changes need to be made moving forward? If there's one thing that truly angered fans about the Belgian Grand Prix, it was the race director's management of the event. Severe conditions led to the drivers completing just the formation lap behind the safety car, only to be parked in the pit lane. The rain was intense, and visibility was virtually zero. But here's the thing, this was not unexpected. Teams had prepared for Sunday's wet weather. Rear wing adjustments, downforce levels, and car setups were all tuned with the rain in mind. And when it really mattered, what did the FIA do? They completely squandered the opportunity for a real race by waiting for the rain to fully stop before starting. There was a window, an entire stretch of nearly 1.5 hours, where racing could have begun. With the safety car leading the way and a train of F1 challengers behind, the water on track could have been cleared naturally. Instead, fans were left sitting for what felt like forever, waiting for a race that never really lived up to its promise. And the biggest insult, the teams who had set up their cars for the rain were betrayed by the very officials meant to facilitate the sport. It's almost ironic. People often joke about F1 drivers never using wet tires, labeling them as one of the sport's biggest wastes of innovation and money. But I genuinely believe that in conditions like these, with proper wet tires that can effectively clear water, racing was still possible, despite the torrential downpour. Yes, no one wants a repeat of tragic incidents like those of Hubert or Van der Hoff, but rain is what makes this sport electric. It's what separates the good drivers from the truly great. It's what decides championships. Imagine if we'd never witnessed the 2024 Interlagos Grand Prix. Imagine if we'd missed out on the legendary title-deciding race at the same venue back in 2008. There are too many iconic rain-soaked battles to count, but the point is simple. Rain has always been one of F1's most thrilling elements. And now, it feels like the FIA is systematically stripping that away from both fans and drivers. Even Max Verstappen himself didn't hold back. After the first lap, he called out the FIA's cautious approach, saying, "Well, the start procedure being suspended is a bit silly. I mean, you should just run a few laps. Jesus, they are way too cautious. Now the heavy rain is coming, and then it's going to be a 3-hour delay." And he's not wrong. The FIA's overcautious stance likely stems from the devastating tragedies in recent years, Hubert's fatal crash in 2019 and Van der Hoff's in 2023. Nobody wants another death at Spa, especially not under treacherous conditions. But hard doesn't mean impossible. Just because most of the grid was on intermediate tires doesn't mean the race couldn't have been managed better. The track workers did their job. The tractors and water cleaners did their job. And yet, during that 90-minute delay, there was plenty of time for drivers to get behind the safety car, help push the water off the track, and actually clear conditions for racing. That's exactly what happened at 16:20 local time, 1 hour and 20 minutes after the original start time. But the most painful part? The race still hadn't officially started, which meant the 3-hour countdown hadn't even begun. The majority of the teams had spent the entire weekend preparing for a wet race, and the FIA essentially nullified all of that effort by waiting for the rain to stop completely. Let's be honest, no one was going to catch McLaren up front anyway. But Max Verstappen went as far as changing his engine and his rear wing setup just to maximize performance in rainy conditions at Spa. And as his engineer Simon later admitted, had they known the FIA would wait for completely dry conditions, they never would have chosen the setup they ran with. Even Max Verstappen's engineer, Simon, admitted that had they known the race wouldn't be run in wet conditions, and that the FIA would simply wait for the rain to stop completely, they would have never gone with the rear wing setup they chose. And this begs the question, what is really going on with the FIA's decision-making? Where is the red line that defines when racing should continue and when it should? Because let's not forget, this is supposed to be the pinnacle of motorsport, the most elite racing category in the world. The cars themselves are wide enough to naturally displace water. We all saw how quickly the track dried once the rain stopped. We saw world champions practically begging to race in these conditions, and we've seen countless iconic races unfold in similarly treacherous weather. When the rain got too heavy, full wet tires were always the answer, designed specifically to offer grip and allow drivers to push despite slippery surfaces. The FIA has spent years encouraging teams to use these wet tires, but at Spa, all of that effort seemed pointless. Their decisions effectively killed any incentive to run wets, and quite frankly, it's embarrassing. This Spa weekend leaves us with serious questions. How do you even approach a race weekend when conditions are constantly changing? There are tires engineered to channel water off the track, improve visibility, and allow racing to continue. Yet, the delay wasn't about grip at all. It was about visibility. And I truly believe that if the FIA had simply tested the track with wet tires, assessed visibility behind the safety car, and given the drivers a chance to judge the conditions, racing would have been possible. But there's a much bigger concern lurking in the background. What about Spa's future? With weather becoming such a dominant factor in recent years, is this just the beginning of an excuse to drop the Belgian Grand Prix from the calendar? The pressure is already mounting. Financial strains and organizational concerns are weighing heavily, and these recent decisions from race directors may be the breaking point. If F1 were to lose a legendary track like Spa, I guarantee that fan interest and ratings would nosedive. Just look at Formula 2 races. Sometimes it rains in Turn 1, while Turn 5 is completely dry and ready for slick tires. These unpredictable conditions are where teams shine, where strategies become make or break, and where drivers prove their courage and skill. You don't need to go flat out through Eau Rouge when it's wet, but with the right tires and the right approach, drivers can still create brilliant, unforgettable moments. Remember, F1 isn't just about who can go fastest at full throttle. It's about who's the smartest, most adaptable driver under extreme circumstances. The real issue here is that even the biggest names, Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, Fernando Alonso, are openly calling out the FIA's extreme caution when it rains. And while it might be far-fetched to claim decisions like this could push drivers into retirement, the truth is, this overcautiousness could have a lasting impact on the sport's competitive spirit. What's worse is the FIA's lack of communication with the drivers. They weren't even given the chance to share feedback after a few laps behind the safety car. It's no wonder this has sparked so much outrage within the paddock. I expect there will be a lot of heated discussions between drivers and the FIA about this moving forward. The solution? First and foremost, we need better wet weather tires. The intermediates are, by definition, for mixed conditions, part wet, part dry. What we had at Spa was a fully wet track, and yet the tires available simply weren't up to the job. I know it might sound basic explaining tire strategy to F1 fans, but it seems the FIA itself isn't grasping this. Right now, it feels like racing is only possible when there's a light drizzle. Anything more and they hit pause. This has to change. Wet tires must be improved, and race directors need to remember that this is motorsport. Drivers know the risks every time they strap into the cockpit. They understand the dangers and the challenges. And while no one is suggesting forcing drivers to race in unsafe conditions, at the very least, they should be given the chance to evaluate the track before a decision is made. The truth is, the rain at Spa could have been managed with fewer delays and proper use of full wet tires. Which leads me to ask, what do you think about this controversy and the FIA's questionable decisions? Do you believe things will change after the backlash from fans all around the world? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And when you're done, click the video on your screen right now for more F1 insights and deep dives.